What's going on, everybody? Drew here. Today's video, I'm gonna give you guys the history of my photo booth rental business journey. I know you guys have become accustomed to seeing my videos. I can talk to you guys about where my business is at now. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I always like to know the beginning story, that journey, because that's where the gems are, right? Let's just break it down like this. I've been in the business about eight years now, and how I got started to me is kind of similar to how a lot of people got started back in the day. Nowadays, a lot of people get started because we have YouTube. You guys may have stumbled on one of my videos, but back in the day, there was no content, like zero content about photo booth stuff, like no influencers. How I got started was I was at a wedding with my buddy, right? A friend that I've had for a long time. And we're at the wedding and we noticed in the corner, there's this ginormous, like, canopy type of deal. And there's a guy that obviously he either owns it or he works for that company. The guy's just chilling out. He has like tacos in his hand. He's eating food from the wedding. And I'm like curious. I'm like, okay, let me check out this photo booth. I checked it out. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because a lot of people were using it and they were enjoying it. Like, it was honestly like the life of the party. He had the prop table. He had the DSLR setup where he would take the photo and it would print 2 strips. So I go in there, I look, and I'm like, wait, the first thing I noticed was I had the same exact camera that the photo booth the guy had. And then my buddy was like, oh, I have that printer. The guy was using like an inkjet printer, like some kind of Canon printer. And then we were like, whoa, like maybe this is a sign that we should, my buddy and I should link together and make our own photo booth and start a photo booth business. But what really sold me on starting was I asked the guy a real personal question, and I probably shouldn't have asked him, but I was like, let me just ask. And I said, hey, how much are you making for this event? He goes, well, I'm giving a discount, just because blah, blah, blah. I forgot what he said. I'm like, okay, I'm like just waiting. I'm like, just throw a number out. He said $1,000, you guys. He was there for 3 hours and he was making $1,000. Keep in mind, looking back now at it, you could make a lot more money in the photo booth rental business back in the day because there was less people in the business. So the demand was high. Obviously, not everyone wanted a photo booth because it was kind of fairly new, but you could get away with charging $1,000 because there may not be a lot of other competition. So now it's different, but that blew my mind. I was like, I looked at my buddy and I'm like literally like, I can't contain myself. So I'm like, oh, thanks for the info. So I go back in the booth, I get a video of all of the guys' equipment just in case I miss something. And then we sit back at our table and I tell my friend, I was like, bro, let's just charge $500. Like, I'll be ecstatic. Like, that's way more, $500 in 3 hours. So we had a good time at the wedding. The next couple days, him and I were brainstorming. Instead of buying our own shell, which I couldn't find any companies that had a reasonable priced shell for a photo booth, we said, let's just make our own. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to get the job done. And one quote I love and I live by is, it doesn't have to be art. It just has to get done. Because I'm all about action and speed. If I just want to get things done and get that momentum going. A lot of people put this pressure on themselves that it has to be perfect. And yeah, I mean, striving for perfection is good, but if it hinders, your goal and it postpones your goal to a point to where you may not want to get started, just don't do it. But anyways, I got sidetracked. So we decided to build a booth, and the idea my buddy had was, let's go to IKEA, we'll buy a shelf, and we'll literally turn the shelf around and drill holes into the back of the shelf, paint it, and then insert our equipment. So we drilled a camera hole, we cut out a square for the laptop that we were using, and the laptop was super janky. I mean, it was like a refurbished iPad that was like, not iPad, it was a refurbished laptop that like literally wouldn't work if it was unplugged. But we're like, hey, leave it plugged in all the time, but it didn't look the best. But you guys, it got us going, and that was the most important part. I think for like maybe 7 months to like 2 years, we used that booth. We added a second unit. We built it ourselves, but we noticed that like literally every other event, we had to fix the booth, right? Cut a piece of wood out, put another replacement piece, a lot of glue, a ton of screws. It came time for us to reinvest into the business because the equipment was totally thrashed. And then that's kind of where, my buddy and I kind of separated because he just was like, look, and I don't have the energy to make, he just wanted to focus more on his career. And I totally understood that. And at the time, it wasn't like a full-time gig for us. It was just kind of a side hustle at the moment. And that's how it is with most people that start this business. It's a side hustle, and there's nothing wrong with that. But me, I wanted to continue, and I saw the potential in the business. So that's when, I did invest in a booth. It was expensive. I think I paid like $2,000 for the booth. Looking back at it now, I'm like, man, there's no way anyone would pay for that. But at the time, it's what we had. So, I used that, raised my prices a little bit higher, and that worked well for a while. And then my business really, really changed when I found out about iPad photo booths. And this was maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The fact that we can offer a photo booth option that didn't include prints blew my mind. And I still didn't know about the drop off, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But iPad booths changed the game. I had at the time a ring light. I think I got it on Amazon, or I don't remember exactly for the first one I got. Just a ring light, the tripod, the very thin tripod, and then an iPad mount, right? And that worked for a little bit. What really, really, really changed the game for me is when I did my first drop off for the iPad photo booth. And you guys, that happened by accident. So let me tell the story really quick. So I got hired to do a wedding. They wanted the digital booth because I offered that for a little bit cheaper because I wasn't offering prints. You guys, I think I was charging maybe like $50 an hour. I know that sounds crazy, but it was a 3-hour minimum. It was $150, and then obviously I'd always have a delivery fee. So I'd probably make like $200 in 3 hours. But I didn't have any prints. I didn't have to haul around a ginormous printer. And I was cool with that. It was a side hustle. It still wasn't like anything serious. So I showed up to the bar. I have all my equipment. The bartender wouldn't let me stay. They said, you can come in because you didn't bring your ID. I forgot to mention that. I forgot to bring my ID. The bartender let me set up, and I said, hey, I'm gonna go get my ID, I'll come back, and then everything would be good. So the time that I went from the bar back to my house to pick up my ID, people started using the photo booth already. And then that's when it clicked in my head. I was like, whoa, like I'm making money right now and I'm not even there. So I was like, whoa, okay. So that was in the back of my head, that drop-offs existed and I could do it, just not with this booth, right? The booth that I had, it wasn't ideal for drop-offs. It would get damaged, the iPad would fall off, or easily stolen. So I go back to the event goes great. And then that's when I met my mentor. I'm not gonna put his name or anything on blast. His name starts with a D. Let's just call him D. Guy from Canada, told me that he was doing insane numbers for his photo booth. And he said that he was doing the drop-offs. And I was like, wow, another sign that this guy is telling me he's making almost anywhere around 200 grand a year just dropping off iPad photo booths. And I noticed his photo booths were a lot nicer, like manufactured photo booths. So I talked to him, and then I started with my wife. At the time, she was my fiance. We started a company called Rustic Charm Booth. And then that's when we really scaled everything up. That, and I took the info that I got from my mentor, and that's when I built my own iPad photo booth. You know, just the same ring light, but a piece of wood behind it, and then an iPad that would be secured, and you can't just easily pull it out. It was a lot better for drop-offs. Still not perfect, but, you know, we went from, when her and I got together and we started that Rustic Charm Booth, we went from one iPad drop-off a week. And I think within, if I can remember, I think the first couple of weeks, we upgraded and we added a few more. But from 1 to 8 booths, 6 months. We had 1 to 8 in 6 months. And then by the end of the year, we had 12. Obviously, we were not doing 12 events every Saturday, but there was like a couple weeks where we had 12. And, you know, we'd average around 8 to 10 on the busy time of the year. So we really scaled it fast. And I noticed that even though we upgraded these booths, they weren't perfect. And, you know, now that we had the money coming in, I was more than happy to invest because I know that we can make a killing. And this is where I was like, okay, I can make a living doing this. That's when we started with our manufactured booths, and you guys can buy your own now too if you're interested in getting an affordable iPad photo booth shell. You guys, we have the DigiBooth right now. It's currently on sale for about $1,100. You get your shell, you get your iPad, your software, you're good to go. You can start making money. So wanted to give you guys the timeline and the history. I'm giving you guys the info. I made a ton of mistakes in my journey, right? I didn't have the University of YouTube. I didn't have a Drew. I didn't have, you know, a Rex, or a Innocent, or a Josh from PBI, or a Own Your Moment photo booth. None of this stuff was available. I had to learn by mistakes. These mistakes cost me money, and that's why I hope you guys really take what I say to heart and don't make these mistakes, because yeah, all of this is affordable, it's free, and that's where we are today in my story. This is just my journey. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and in the description, links to Photo Booth 101, links to stuff that you can buy for your photo booth, and also my Instagram is down there too if you guys want to see that. Connect with me more on a personal level. You know, my Instagram is in the description as well. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Take care.